McQueen and I got along pretty good. McQueen looked at me kind of like an older brother, and he didn't want to have much to do with me till he got in trouble, then he'd call.
James Garner, the iconic star of Maverick and the Rockford Files, was adored for his wit, charm, and laid-back nature. But there's one story he kept locked away, a story that only came to light after his passing. It's a tale of fiery clashes and unspoken animosity between Garner and Steve McQueen, two Hollywood legends who could never seem to find common ground on set. The real question is, what secrets did Garner keep? What really happened between these two men? And why has this revelation only surfaced now? Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about the world of Hollywood. The early days. Garner and McQueen. Meet on set. James Garner wasn't just another actor. He had a way of making any character his own. With his cool, laid-back demeanor and quick wit, Garner made us believe in the characters he portrayed. Whether it was the charming gambler Brett Maverick or the savvy private investigator Jim Rockford, his Hollywood career was one of effortless charm, and his approach to acting was more about making the audience feel like they were watching a real person rather than a scripted role. Steve McQueen, on the other hand, was cut from a different cloth. He exuded an energy that was both magnetic and chaotic. The King of Cool, as he was known, lived a life that mirrored the anti-hero roles he played. From Bullitt to The Great Escape, McQueen wasn't just acting, he was living the part. His raw intensity, both on-screen and off, often led to friction with those around him. When The Great Escape brought Garner and McQueen together, it was a meeting of two titans. Garner, the seasoned actor who had already built a strong reputation, and McQueen, the up-and-coming star who was eager to take Hollywood by storm. At first glance, it seemed like a perfect pairing for the World War II epic. The film was a classic, full of action, camaraderie, and a sense of escape. But behind the scenes, things weren't so harmonious. The first signs of tension began when McQueen felt that his role as the cooler-than-cool cooler was being overshadowed by Garner's character. McQueen, who had always been at the center of attention, began to feel uncomfortable with the amount of screen time Garner was getting. In The Great Escape, while both stars played pivotal roles, Garner's character, the charming and resourceful Henley, was given substantial focus. McQueen's character, by contrast, was more of the brooding, rebellious type, a role that required less interaction and more action. But McQueen wasn't one to simply sit back and accept this. His frustration began to bubble over as he demanded rewrites and insisted that his character be given more screen time. What followed were days of tension as McQueen's demands began to clash with the movie's more established structure. Garner, ever the professional, didn't make waves. He continued to deliver his lines with ease, letting the story unfold. But the friction was undeniable, and as the film progressed, the tension between the two stars became harder to ignore. The rivalry deepens. Garner versus McQueen. At its core, the tension between Garner and McQueen was about more than just screen time or character depth. It was about control. McQueen was known for his intense desire to dominate, both on and off screen. He wanted to be the star, and everything had to revolve around him. Garner, on the other hand, was more laid back, content to let the story speak for itself. He had no need for constant validation. While they respected each other professionally, their egos clashed. McQueen's tendency to push the limits, demanding more of the script, more focus on his character, didn't sit well with Garner. The veteran actor, though not confrontational, began to grow weary of McQueen's outbursts and frequent demands. Their personalities, so different, only made the situation more charged. Despite their growing tension, The Great Escape remained a success, cementing both men's places as Hollywood legends. But what was often overlooked in the film's legacy was the quiet, simmering conflict that marked the production. What was it like to be on set with two of the most famous men in Hollywood? Men whose rivalry was just as intense as the film's action scenes. Garner later admitted in his memoir, The Garner Files, that the entire experience with McQueen was less than ideal. He didn't mince words when describing McQueen's behavior on set, calling him a pain in the ass. He further expressed his dissatisfaction with how McQueen seemed to be more interested in creating drama than focusing on the work at hand. Yet, despite all the tension, Garner couldn't help but acknowledge McQueen's talent. The King of Cool was undeniably gifted, but it was his off-screen persona that made it difficult for people to be around him. McQueen was often compared to Marlon Brando for his ability to bring raw emotion and unpredictability to his roles. But unlike Brando, who was unpredictable but magnetic, McQueen often alienated those around him with his behavior. A legacy of tension, the personal and professional fallout. Years after The Great Escape, the stories of the on-set drama between Garner and McQueen became part of Hollywood legend. As both men's careers continued to rise, their paths diverged. McQueen's star shone brighter in the 1970s as he became one of the highest-paid actors in the world, landing starring roles in films like Bullitt and The Getaway. Garner, meanwhile, embraced television, earning critical acclaim for his role in the Rockford Files and eventually transitioning into movies. Yet, despite their professional success, the tension between the two men lingered. McQueen's image as the wild, rebellious outsider continued to grow, while Garner remained more accessible to his fans. But the media and public began to take sides. McQueen's popularity reached new heights, while Garner's work was often seen as more grounded, more relatable. And then, in a surprising twist, McQueen's health began to fail. In 1980, he was diagnosed with mesothelioma, a rare form of cancer often caused by exposure to asbestos. As McQueen battled his illness, he reached out to Garner, perhaps looking for some form of redemption in the years leading up to his death in 1980. Despite their past, Garner was one of the few who remained by McQueen's side. He visited McQueen during his final days, offering support during a time when the world was turning its back on the King of Cool. Garner, the ever-professional, had always respected McQueen's talent. In the end, that respect overcame their differences. Garner's final reflections on McQueen. Years later, Garner reflected on his time working with McQueen. In his memoir, he was candid about their difficult relationship, but also expressed a sense of understanding. He recognized that McQueen was a product of his environment, haunted by insecurities and fears that ultimately drove him to push others away. Garner admitted that, despite their clashes, he missed McQueen. The man he had once considered a rival was now gone, and Garner was left to wonder if their relationship could have been different had they spent more time together. In the quiet of his later years, Garner came to see McQueen not just as a co-star or rival, but as a man struggling with his own demons. Garner's reflections on McQueen's passing were bittersweet. While the two had shared an unforgettable on-screen legacy, their personal relationship remained fractured. In the end, their rivalry wasn't just about ego or jealousy. It was about two men who couldn't understand each other, but who nevertheless shared a bond that would never be broken. The legacy of Hollywood's Clash of Titans. As time passes, the story of James Garner and Steve McQueen remains one of Hollywood's most complex and intriguing rivalries. Their time on screen was marked by tension, but it also created two of the most memorable characters in cinematic history. Their careers, however different, were built on the same foundation: an unwavering commitment to their craft and a drive to succeed. Despite their differences, Garner and McQueen both left a lasting legacy on Hollywood. Their films are still celebrated today, and their names are synonymous with the golden age of cinema. But beneath the surface, The real story of their rivalry remains one of the industry's greatest untold secrets. The story of Garner and McQueen's rivalry reveals more than just the behind-the-scenes drama of a classic film. It shows the human side of Hollywood. So, what do you think about their relationship? Were McQueen's actions driven by insecurity, or was Garner being too critical? What do you believe went on behind the scenes during The Great Escape? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Legend Discovery channel for more untold stories from Hollywood's biggest legends. You won't want to miss out.